Hello friends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and today we're going to be wrapping up TBRathon. TBRathon was a month-long readathon that took place in the month of January, and so at the beginning of January I did my rolls for the game board. I also promised that I was going to try and do a bingo as well, and so today I'm just going to talk about the books that I read, whether or not I was a success, did I complete TBRathon or did I not? We will start with the game board. So for the game board, I did switch out some of the books that I had originally chosen for others, and I'll deal with that whenever we get to those prompts. The first one I did not though. So the first prompt that I got on Paws and Bookshelves was a title with the word "the" in it. And for this, I chose The Daughters' War. I absolutely love this. It was a 5-star. I actually had 2 5 stars this month for my TBRathon books, and so that was very exciting. And I'll talk about the other one in just a minute. But if you guys want a lot of my thoughts on The Daughters' War, you should go and check out my new releases vlog, because I kind of sit down and talk through, I think I did 2 updates for this particular book. But if you don't know anything about The Daughters' War and you're not interested in a really long explanation of my thoughts, The Daughters' War is the prequel to The Black-Tongued Thief by Christopher Buehlman. And within The Black-Tongued Thief, you learn that the world has had these huge, massive wars between humans and goblins, and it has kind of tarnished the future prospects and society in general. And you get to see kind of the aftermath of the wars in The Black-Tongued Thief. Well, in The Daughters' War, we actually follow a character who was in The Black-Tongued Thief. We follow Galva and how she got to the point we saw her in The Black-Tongued Thief. And so we get to see her in the actual wars as a young, I think she starts out as a 20-year-old woman in this book, and we get to see her progress through this really horrific war that they went through. And I just love this book. It was fantastic. We also get to learn about Galva's backstory in how she chose her goddess, because she worships the goddess of death. And so you get to see that culminating event, as well as just actually getting to witness some of what happened within the Goblin Wars. So this is not for the faint of heart. If you do not enjoy like gore, it's definitely something that does come up in this storyline, but I think that it's really well done. I think that the clash of the classes, even within a war unit, so within the unit that Galva is in, she and the people around her are ostracized because of who they are and where they come from. And so you get to see the political dynamics within that as well, which I just found fascinating. The next prompt that I had was a blue cover, and I had originally chosen for this The Affair of the Mysterious Letter. However, that is a host pick for Leandra for Get a Clue in February, and so I did push that book to the month of February, so I haven't read it yet. But I did read I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons, once again for that new releases vlog, and so I have more of my opinions there. This was a little bit of a disappointing read for me. I ended up rating this a 2.5 star. In this book, you follow our main character, Robert, who has inherited his father's profession of being a dragon slayer, and he really doesn't want to be. He is called into the castle to exterminate a whole bunch of dragons, and you follow the events that ensue after that. The main reason I was disappointed by this was because my expectations were expecting this to be a cozy story, and it really is not. I did go back and reread the first 30% of the book to try and readjust my expectations after I learned that it was more of an adventure tale than it was anything else. But I just think that the story isn't wrapped up well. There are a lot of details missing, and it's very short. So I think it could have been longer, and it could have explained some of the holes that I was finding as I was reading it. So yeah, just not a book for me. The next prompt that I had was a genre blend, and for this one I chose The Day of the Triffids, which is actually our February podcast read. So if you guys are interested in sci-fi horror, classic sci-fi horror, you should go and check out Not Reading for Content. I'll have our channel on YouTube linked below, but we can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. There's a podcast that Leandra, the TBR Zero, and I do where we read one book every month and discuss it with you guys. This book is about an apocalyptic event essentially that happens where everyone in the world goes blind for mysterious reasons. There are also 7-foot tall plants that eat humans roaming the world, and so society in general, it has collapsed, and you follow a character who has to figure out how to survive. Join us for the ride. The next prompt I got was actually to repeat my previous prompt. And so I had to do another genre blend. So I chose The Maid and the Crocodile for this one and absolutely loved it. This was a 5-star. Jordan Ifueko will from this point on be an author that I just automatically pick up because I love her writing. It's so beautiful. It's very thought-provoking as well. This is a story set in the same world as the Raybearer duology, so if you haven't read that, you shouldn't go into The Maid and the Crocodile because there's definitely some context clues that you're not going to understand what's going on. But we follow our main character, Shadi, who is a maid, and she is also a maid who has disabilities. She has learned to have to do things a little differently in order to get her work done. And she also is a little bit ostracized from society for different reasons that you learn throughout the book. And she's known as a curse eater. With that, a lot of curse eaters are frauds, but she is not. She actually can get rid of people's curses. And so you learn about that magic system throughout. She also, at the very beginning of the book, runs into the nefarious god, the crocodile, and gets kind of swept up into some of his games. And I loved it. I love being able to be in her perspective and live in this world that is very much indebted to the people who are in the service industry, such as maids, kitchen cooks, and things like that, but does not treat them very well. And so you get to see her thought process throughout the whole thing, and you get to see her growth as well as a character throughout the story. I really loved it. The last prompt that I got for Paws and Bookshelves was actually a book recommendation, and I was going to use a Battle of the Booktubers book for this, but I did read another book that was also a book recommendation. I got my Battle of Booktubers books read, but I'm not going to tell you what I read. But the other book that I read that was actually a subscriber recommendation was The Alchemist of Loom. So I talked a little bit about this in my library haul video because I am going to be reading the second book of the series, The Dragons of Nova, in February, but I absolutely love this. I think that it's so fun. I rated this a 4.75 and I can't wait to continue the series. It's kind of a steampunk-esque society where you have these creatures who are called Faerun's, I think, and you have dragons, but not dragons in the typical sense. They're very humanoid. They still have like talons and claws, and they're blue. I don't know if all of them are blue, but the one that we interact with is blue. And they don't have wings, but they have gliders, like steampunk gliders, essentially. So you have two main societies. You have Nova, which is where the dragons live, and you have Loom, which is where everyone else lives. But the dragons actually have taken over Loom and have changed a lot of the political dynamics of the kingdom and have made it quite harsh for certain people to survive. And our two main characters, and we have more than that. We have more POVs that we follow, but the two main people that we're following are a dragon and a chimera, who is a I don't know if all of the chimera are the same, but the one that we follow is a Fenri that has taken dragon parts and implanted them in herself to give herself magical imbuement, which that part was also really fascinating to learn about. But she is an enemy of the dragons. She does not like them in her city. She kills them when she can. And this dragon asks her for help in finding the alchemists of Loom. And in the past, you have some political wars going on. You had a resistance that originally happened in Loom when the dragons took over, trying to push the dragons out, and those were the Alchemist Guild. And so that is what this dragon is looking for, and they go on a journey. And that's all I kind of want to say about it. But I really had fun. This is an enemies to lovers romance, but it is also very slow, which I had enjoyed. And I like the characters. I like being in both of the characters' perspectives, being able to see why they feel certain ways about their society and where their kind of blind spots are because of their perspective. It's been an interesting ride, and I'm excited to continue. So I did complete the game board, which was exciting. Unfortunately, I did not have the same luck with the bingo board. I almost got it done, but not quite. So with the bingo board, the first book that I was going to read was an old spooky read, and I did get Frankenstein done, guys. which I'm really excited about. I've been trying to read Frankenstein for like the past 2 years, so I'm excited to finally have that done. And there will be a video shortly about my thoughts, just a discussion of kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of Frankenstein. It will be spoilery, so if you haven't read Frankenstein and don't know the general premise, you probably don't want to watch that video, but for now, I will just tell you that I did enjoy myself. I rated it at just a flat 4-star, and yeah, that video will be coming. Next, we had The Die Chooses, and I rolled a 1, which means I had to read a book that was within the 100-page range, so between 100 and 200 pages. And I originally chose a manga for this, but instead, in that new releases vlog that I did, I actually ended up reading The Full Speed to a Crash Landing, which is a little space opera novella about a person who has put out a distress signal because her ship has been broken. She's just floating in space, and she gets picked up by another ship that is on a mission to collect something, to salvage something from another wrecked ship. And you know that something's not quite right because she tells you, you're in her head. She tells you that she's essentially lying but not lying to these people on this ship to get something, but you don't know what that something is. And I thought this was fun. It's a really quick-paced space opera. I liked her perspective. It is a series, and so I do plan on continuing this as well. I rated this a 4.25. Next, we have the middle spot of the bingo board, which was Leandra's pick, which was a mood read. And for this one, I picked Fireborn Blade, which I also talked about in that new releases vlog if you want to go and find out my thoughts. But it's another novella. I have been kind of focusing on shorter reads within the first month because of my new job. And so that's why you see so many shorter reads on my January TBR. But I really enjoyed this. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. The descriptions of how dragons impact the dead in this book is just really fascinating, and I'm excited to continue on with this series as well. You're following our main character whose mission is to reclaim the Fireborn Blade to get her honor back because she is a knight, but she is dishonored because of reasons that you learn throughout, and she is traveling in this dragon's lair trying to get to the dragon in order to find the Fireborn Blade. And I think that's all I'm going to say, but I really did enjoy it. It's very fast-paced. It is a novella, so it reads really quick. And I rated this one, I don't think I said that, I rated this a 4.5. On to the reason that I didn't actually get a bingo, and that is because of the next box was supposed to be a manga that you have been dying to read. And I meant to pick up Freyrin in January, and I didn't get a chance to. But with Get a Clue, I should have... hopefully this will be kind of like one of those moments where I can read this for a bonus prompt of some sort, because I do really want to read it. I own the first 5 volumes, and I've just heard absolutely phenomenal things. I just didn't get to it. So this was my one failure for January, but hopefully I'll get to it in February. And then the last block on the bingo board that I went for was new author, which I did read, or DNF'd, The Empire of the Vampire by J. Kristoff. I'd never read anything by J. Kristoff before, and I don't know that I will again, because I just don't know if his writing style is for me. I read a good chunk of this. I think I read 250 pages of it, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was very irritated by some of the, well, kind of the lack of world building and the reasoning for some of what was going on in the story. You are following a character. I don't know how much I want to give you guys because I feel like a lot of it's spoilery, but I didn't even get to the 50% mark. Our main character is in a world where vampires exist, and there is also a society of people who hunt these vampires. And you, because of events that happen in the beginning of the book, you get to learn about the society that is going out and killing vampires. It is told from, if you guys have ever read The Name of the Wind, it's told from the person who is telling their own stories perspective, if you guys have ever read a book like that. And so I do usually like that. I didn't care about, I just found it boring. And I think that some of the depictions of women in this book are just not necessary. And I get that it's historical, but there were a couple of scenes where the men in this book were almost doing like locker room talk, and it didn't add to the plot at all. It just felt like a reason to talk about women's bodies in a way that I don't care to read about. And so that was something I also didn't enjoy about this story. And it could have also been the tone, because Gothic novels are very hit or miss for me. So this could have just been a miss. So those are the books that I read for TBRathon. As I said, I accomplished the game board. I didn't quite make a bingo, but I still think that this was an excellent reading month. So thank you to Leandra for creating TBRathon. Once again, it was a success, and I'm sure that it was a success for those of you who participated as well. Speaking of that, if you did have a favorite read of January, let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know if you participated in TBRathon. Did you accomplish whichever sheet that you used? Did you do the game board, the bingo board? Did you do the mood reading map? And did you accomplish what you set out to accomplish in the month of January? I would love to hear from you guys. If you are not feeling chatty today, just leave me a little vampire emoji for Empire of the Vampire so I know that you guys are here. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have a lovely evening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!